I started working on the ecology of streams and rivers nearly 30 years ago. I started out as a student in Western Australia working on small streams, and I've been working in that field for quite a long time. And that work took me to Canada, and ultimately I ended up in Brisbane. And I've been at Griffith University for the last 20 years, studying streams and rivers and wetlands, not only in Australia but right across the globe. I think the key driver for me is that the fundamental global challenge for us is how do we balance the needs of water for both humans and nature. And everywhere you hear that topic discussed, it's always seen as a competition, where the environment is always competing with humans for water. And a key part of the work that I've done is really focused on how do we get those environmental outcomes, and how do we see that by meeting the needs of the environment, we also meet a lot of the needs for humans, and really trying to emphasise the fact that if we don't address those environmental needs, then we're really going to compromise our own human water security. And so that's been a real passion for me, is how do we get better environmental outcomes and yet still meet the basic human needs that we have for water as well. The most recent project work we've got going at the moment is funded in partnership with CSIRO, and that's to develop another consortium of research scientists, and that's aimed at looking at flow ecology relationships in the Murray-Darling Basin, and really aimed at trying to get a better understanding of how do we manage environmental water in the Murray-Darling Basin. And that project's just underway as well. We've done quite a bit of work at the global scale of looking at indicators of river health, and we published some of that work last year. Very keen to continue that work with our international colleagues on how do we come up with not only predicting the drivers of river health at a global scale, but starting to assemble some of the data sets that are available at that scale to look at the consequences of that on freshwater biodiversity. So there's some international work that I'm very keen to do. More fundamentally, there's a project that we have under consideration for funding at the moment, which is really aimed at concentrating on some of the really detailed aspects of food web ecology. And there's really been some great debate in the literature at the moment about which are the important sources of energy that sustain river systems and sustain fish and other animals that live in rivers. And in a big way, it's related to food quality. There are certain forms of energy production that have carbon and energy in it that's of very, very high quality, and only certain kinds of plants produce that. And importantly, even for humans, the only way you get those essential fatty acids and things that you really require are through the things that you eat. And so one of the things I'm fundamentally interested in is what are those sources of high quality food? What are the things that influence those? And ultimately, how does the way in which we manage and interfere with river systems, how does that affect the production of that really high quality food, and what's the consequence of that to not only fish and birds and all those things, but it also has ramifications for our own food quality as well. Because we're always after that. We're after the high quality stuff that goes into making cell membranes and making our brains, and you can't make that stuff. You've got to eat something with it, and so that's a piece of work that hasn't been done before, and really keen to see that stuff fly.